Okay, guys, so now that we've got our present subjunctive notes from last chapter kind of under our belt, and you've taken the notes and you've taken a look at those activities and made sure that you could do those from chapter 3, now we're looking at using the subjunctive in chapter 4. In this chapter, we're not learning how to conjugate anything new. We learned how to conjugate the present subjunctive last chapter. All we're doing is we're learning how to use the subjunctive even more. Okay, so in the first section of grammar for this chapter, we're going to go ahead and title this the subjunctive with verbs of emotion. Okay, so this is going to be the same thing. All right, we're going to have a main clause. Okay, we're going to have the word K, and then we're going to have the subordinate clause. So just as a reminder of what we were doing last chapter, and in our notes just above, is we were putting the main clause in the present tense. And that's just the very first tense you ever learned, right? And the subordinate clause we're putting in the present subjunctive. Okay? So now what we're looking at is that in this main clause, all right, this is going to be a verb of emotion with a subject that is different from the subordinate clause. So remember, we have to have a different subject. Okay? Then the back half, we're just going to make sure, for the subordinate clause, we're just going to make sure that it's in the present subjunctive. All right? And we're having the word K in between, just like we've done all along. So what I want to do is I want to add in those verbs of emotion so that you can see them. It's really important that you memorize these and what they mean so that you know that when you're using them in the subordinate clause, you're going to go ahead and use the present subjunctive. So give me just a second, and I'm going to find the ones that we need. Now, when we're looking at this, we're seeing all of these different verbs and expressions of emotion, all right? Now, again, like I said before, we need to memorize these so that we know what they mean, so that when we're using them in the main clause, we understand that in the subordinate clause, we're using the present subjunctive. Okay? And again, we're looking to make sure that the subject changes from the main clause to the subordinate clause. So here, right, we're talking about that it bothers me. If we're looking at me molesta. So in this first example, it bothers me that people don't recycle plastic. Well, it is doing the action of bothering me, and it is different than people as a subject. Okay? When we say es triste, it's sad, then we're just using one of those phrases or expressions of emotion. So it's just a general subject. So that's great. Because then when we look in the second half, we say it's sad that we have problems like climate change. We is different than just a general subject of it's sad. So that works. So we were able to use the present subjunctive. Okay? Now, another thing that's going to fall under these verbs of emotion, okay, is going to be a very particular phrase. Now, this phrase is a very particular phrase, all right? It says here in the book that ojalá means I hope or I wish. What we want to know, and I put it in the PowerPoint for you guys for the notes, but it really comes from the Arabic influence on the Spanish language. Allah being God, so ojalá, God willing. Okay? We're going to use it and translate it as I hope or I wish because we can use it in those cases. Now, with this phrase, notice that que is in parentheses. Remember, anytime we use parentheses like that, it means it's optional. With this particular phrase, you can use que or you don't have to. So, for instance, they give you this example. I could say, ojalá que se conservan. Oops, I forgot the R. Dot, dot, dot. Or I could just say, ojalá se conservan. Dot, dot, dot. Either way is correct, okay? Ojalá will always be used. So make sure that you note that up here in the notes. Will always be used with the subjunctive, okay? And again, this is just that note telling you that the word que is optional. All right.